People across South Africa were left stunned a day after Parliament was forced to suspend its sitting following a heated confrontation between Gayton McKenzie of the Patriotic Alliance and President Cyril Ramaphosa. What was meant to be a routine budget discussion quickly spiraled into one of the most chaotic scenes the chamber has witnessed in years. Voices were raised, tempers flared, and order collapsed in front of a nation watching in disbelief. The incident has raised serious questions about the stability of South Africa's political leadership and the state of discipline within Parliament. It also forced many citizens to reflect on whether the country's democratic institutions are functioning as they should. What unfolded inside the chamber did not remain confined to Parliament walls. It quickly spilled into public debate, sparking intense discussion about respect, accountability, and the conduct of those elected to govern. The confrontation began when Gayton McKenzie took the floor during the budget debate. Known for his outspoken and confrontational style, McKenzie immediately launched into a fierce attack on President Ramaphosa and his administration. His remarks were personal, emotional, and sharply critical. He accused the president of cowardice and claimed that Ramaphosa protected corruption while failing to act in the interests of ordinary South Africans. McKenzie declared that the country was not poor but broken because of weak leadership and silence in the face of wrongdoing. His words echoed loudly through the chamber, triggering outrage among ANC members. MPs began shouting in protest, attempting to drown out his speech. The speaker repeatedly called for order, but the noise only intensified. What should have been a structured debate turned into open confrontation. The atmosphere grew increasingly hostile as members stood from their seats, pointing fingers and exchanging insults. Tensions reached a new level when President Ramaphosa rose to respond. Unlike his usual calm demeanor, he appeared visibly angered by McKenzie's accusations. Ramaphosa accused McKenzie of hypocrisy and claimed that his opponent was not truly concerned about the poor but was instead driven by self-interest. He suggested that McKenzie's political associations contradicted his public claims of defending struggling communities. These remarks further inflamed the situation and pushed the chamber deeper into disorder. At that point, the debate completely collapsed. MPs from different parties shouted over one another, accusations flew across the floor, and the speaker struggled to restore control. Security staff closely monitored the situation as emotions ran high and exchanges became increasingly personal. Words such as traitor, hypocrite, and enemy of the people were hurled across the chamber, showing just how far the discussion had drifted from policy and governance. With order impossible to restore, the speaker made the unprecedented decision to suspend the session. The move underscored the seriousness of the crisis and demonstrated that parliamentary rules had broken down entirely. Even after the session ended, tensions remained high. Reports emerged of heated arguments continuing in hallways, with staff stepping in to prevent further confrontations. The incident quickly spread across social media platforms. Video clips of the confrontation circulated widely on Twitter, TikTok, and Facebook, drawing millions of reactions. Some users expressed anger and disappointment, while others mocked the spectacle. Hashtags related to the parliamentary meltdown trended nationwide, turning the confrontation into a defining political moment of the day. Public opinion became deeply divided. Supporters of Gayton McKenzie praised him for confronting the president directly and speaking on behalf of citizens who feel ignored. They viewed his actions as necessary in a political system they believe has lost touch with the people. To them, his bluntness represented honesty and courage in a time of widespread frustration. Supporters of President Ramaphosa, however, condemned McKenzie's behavior as reckless and disrespectful. They argued that his outburst damaged the dignity of Parliament and undermined the serious work of governing. They claimed that personal attacks distracted from urgent national issues and turned democratic debate into political theater. Political analysts expressed growing concern over what the incident revealed about South Africa's political system. Commentator Zena Lachalai described the confrontation as a symptom of deeper institutional failure. She warned that economic hardship, unemployment, and rising public anger were creating conditions where conflict will become more frequent. Without reform and stronger leadership, she cautioned, such scenes have become the new normal. Opposition parties reacted swiftly. The Patriotic Alliance and the Economic Freedom Fighters both called for an investigation into the conduct of Ramaphosa and McKenzie. The EFF argued that the president should have maintained composure under pressure, while the DA insisted that McKenzie's aggressive rhetoric disrupted parliamentary function. Both parties urged the Speaker to enforce discipline and restore respect to parliamentary proceedings. Beyond party politics, civil society groups also spoke out. Organizations advocating for good governance called on Parliament to recommit to respectful debate and accountability. They warned that repeated breakdowns in decorum would deepen public mistrust and further polarize society. For many ordinary South Africans, the incident was deeply discouraging. Citizens struggling with unemployment, rising food prices, and unreliable electricity questioned why their leaders were focused on fighting instead of solutions. Online comments reflected exhaustion and anger, with many saying they wanted jobs and safety, not shouting matches in Parliament. As the dust begins to settle, the country faces difficult questions about the future of its politics. Was this a single emotional breakdown or a sign of deeper instability? Will leaders learn from this episode and restore respect to the chamber, or will division and confrontation become the norm? With elections approaching and trust in political leadership at historic lows, the stakes are higher than ever. Many fear that without meaningful reform, scenes like today's confrontation may grow more common, marking a new chapter in South Africa's democracy defined by volatility and uncertainty. The nation now watches closely, hoping its leaders will choose cooperation over conflict and governance over spectacle.